What about net zero? Because it was implemented under the Tories. It's seen as controversial. We pay money for it on our energy bills when cost of living is very high. Some people would argue we shouldn't be doing it because we're so small, it makes no difference. Other people say we are small, but it does make a difference and it's really important for climate change. What's your view on it?
My view is we need to be practical about it rather than ideological. And I've never been a massive fan of, I've never been a fan of the net zero policy as it was, because it is a specific government policy. I think one of the big failings, and it's certainly a failing of the last Conservative government, was to legislate for things that should be policies, because that then leaves you open to challenges in court, for judicial review, for all sorts of other things, and it actually stymies effective government. So there are far too many things that government have legislated for when they ought to be policy positions that you have the confidence of your conviction to drive through. That's one problem. But actually, we need to look at not only the impact that we can have. I don't think there's anything wrong with suggesting that we should continue to transition to more renewable energy. There's a very good argument out there that in the long term, renewable energy will be cheaper for us, and the infrastructure will be better for us as a country, that will end up with a better environment, and hopefully we can drive some of that change internationally. However, we also need to recognise that in the world we're in now, we need, again, to focus on what matters to the people we're here to serve, what's going to help people today in the UK, in Oxfordshire, in our part of the world. And that's what matters. A really good example of that is the ban on air conditioning units. At the time of recording this, we're through the middle of a heat wave. There are lots of people desperate to have air conditioning. We've got schools closing because head teachers think it's not safe to have children in schools in high temperatures. And the solution to that is obvious, that we need to improve our building stock. And part of that improvement is to install air conditioning more widely if we're going to see higher temperatures. So we need to think about mitigating the impacts of climate change as well as simply trying to stop it. Because in the context of how we stop it, we are a tiny payer, a tiny percentage. And the efforts we make to stop climate change are negligible. But what we can do at the same time is look at how we mitigate that change. So I would argue looking at improvements to, for example, air conditioning and making that a more common feature in the UK seems a sensible reaction.
The lack of air conditioning in the UK seems crazy. From a school's perspective, I mean, people go to work in their air-conditioned car, they get on the air-conditioned train, they go to their air-conditioned office, but the children are in boiling hot classrooms with no provision.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course that needs some money up front for investment, but actually it's a relatively small one if we can keep schools open for longer periods and if we're going to see higher temperatures generally. So we can manage this. We can mitigate against those things. Now, along the track, there's no harm in saying that actually our energy network, our electricity grid needs to be strengthened because we're using more electricity and less gas. And actually we need to look at how we're generating that. But now, as we are at the moment, we have oil and gas, which is not being properly exploited within the North Sea. We're importing this stuff. It's not as if we're not using it, but we're buying it from other people. It absolutely, in my view, makes sense to use what we've got. But I don't think it needs to be an either or. I think it's a strange debate that says that we have to stop extracting our own oil and gas from the North Sea. And that automatically means that we can never look at better use of renewables. I think, we absolutely need to embrace nuclear energy more in this country. I find that the conversation about nuclear energy really interesting and slightly bizarre for someone who's grown up so close to Harwell. We have the legacy of the world's first nuclear reactor just down the road. We have experimentation around nuclear fusion going on just down the road, and yet there is still a sort of a public hostility, the fear around nuclear power. Well, we all live pretty close to it actually in this part of the world and have done so safely for generations. I think there is a very good argument for a significant investment. The investment we have had has taken too long. It's been dependent on the Chinese to deliver our nuclear infrastructure, and it's just not delivering on time. But that's got to be part of the solution, surely. So I think you can do both. We should be exploiting the oil and gas reserves that we've got at the moment because we've got an economic challenge that can address, and we've got an energy challenge that can help to address. Does that mean we stop nuclear power? Does that mean we stop looking at renewables? No, of course it doesn't. And I think it's a strange position we've got ourselves into where you seem to be able to have to choose one or the other.